Global fine art sales, ladies and gentlemen, are reaching an epic number right now. We're looking at $10+ billion a year in sales globally, and it doesn't seem like this trend's going to slow down anytime sooner. Welcome again to a special edition of Buy, Hold, Sell. I have the global fine arts market insights right now, and I'm bringing back my expert, the expert among experts, Amanda Robin Wood. Amanda was on the show last week talking all about the arts market and how it's growing just for herself and also for her peers. But I wanted to bring her back to really get into the numbers. Welcome back to the show, Amanda.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Well, I got to say, you were on the show last week. We really were drilling down on the global fine arts market, really talked about some of these numbers, but we just touched on them just a little bit. And based off of the response from listeners on this podcast, everyone was saying, look, this is a market that has yet to really reach its full potential. I got to tell you, Amanda, I'm looking at some of these numbers right now, and this is from a source called artprice.com. They're telling us that global fine arts market auction proceeds were over $15 billion last year. When I look at some of these numbers, and just you and I, from what we were talking about, based on your own art, I mean, are you seeing these numbers, or is this what you're seeing as far as this type of growth, not just for you personally, but also maybe from your peers and your other associates that you're dealing with?
Absolutely. In fact, I've just raised my prices again recently, and that's usually when an artist raises their prices, is to kind of slow down the demand a little bit so you can keep some inventory, but things have been selling very quickly, very quickly.
So that's interesting. So increasing the price, you had so much demand from all kinds of investors and those that are passionate. And it's great about being an artist like yourself. You're passionate about this, but you're also seeing the business value of it. And I think when you can mix those two, that's where you're really seeing some that's the real combination, I think, that probably all artists are trying to achieve, at least the ones that are entrepreneurial like yourself. But I see some of these numbers right now. I mean, what fascinates me is that I am not an aficionado when it comes to this like yourself. But it looks like that these numbers are just continuing to increase just tenfold. I mean, it looks like New York is the #1 market in the world right now for art sales, but it doesn't mean that Americans are the only ones buying this art. It's also an international phenomenon. What about for you? Are you seeing a lot of international clients coming your way, or is it just locally down in the Texas region? I mean, maybe you could explain that a little bit for the listeners.
I've sold pieces in California, Louisiana, and more so in the Texas area. It may be partly because of my talking to people and networking with people. That's where a lot of it kind of comes from. But, I know that New York is #1 in that they've also got this massive explosion in galleries that just opened up. I mean, it's almost on every street corner. There's a gallery popping up from what I hear. I've heard that I think England is #2 only because they've got some Brexit things hanging over that are making things a little more difficult to sell and tax issues popping up, but it's #2 right now.
Okay, so and on the studio side, so because you mentioned in last week's show about contemporary art being the type of art that is in favor right now, but in these studios, and I've been to a studio here and there, maybe for a wine tasting, not really paying attention too much to what's really happening there, really just there socially. But it seems to me that I go into one of these studios and there's a variety of different pieces that are there. You have your paintings, you have your sculpture. Is that what's typical now? It's almost like a full market across the board, trying to be a complete, where you're bringing in a number of artists, but maybe they're covering different areas because the studio is just trying to get as much bang for the buck, I guess, out of all of their artists.
Well, it is nice to have variety, and you never know what somebody's looking for. Sometimes you need sometimes you got someone that wants a little sculpture or a large sculpture. You don't know if they're putting it inside or outside. And at my gallery that I show in, Davis Gallery in Austin, I'll go in once in a while and ask them, okay, what's hot, what's selling, and not because I want to want to cater or anything. I still do my own thing, but it's still smart to know what the market's doing. And they all tell me that anything big, anything really big, large, anything that will fill up a big wall and something that's showy and impressive, that's what it's selling. So, but they do try to have a nice variety of small things, big things, sculpture, painting, because, they love the art too, and they want to celebrate all of it. But I do see some artists that sculpt and paint. So when you mentioned in their studios versus galleries, I just kind of wanted to check on that. But definitely inside people's own studios, you'll find some paintings and sculptures and drawings. They kind of do it all. Lately, I've just been a lot more focused on the sculpture and try not to be too much of a jack of all trades.
Right.
Just a lot more focused on my sculpture. I have painted, but do that more for myself as sort of a side hobby. My business is more the sculpture.
Okay, I understand, and I think that shows you where my misunderstanding and my amateurism here. I was actually thinking studio and gallery, making them synonymous. I clearly I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to this.
That's okay.
That's why I'm bringing you on the show.
It's all art. It's okay. It's all art.
It's all art. That's right. I love that. I love that line right there. Okay, so what about the ones who own the galleries, though? I assume that they must be artists as well. And the reason why I asked this is because I sent you an article yesterday where I saw some people that were actually leaving Sotheby's and they're starting their own investment advisory firm, but it's specific to art right now. But are the gallery owners, are they artists themselves?
Not so much. Some of them are. Most of them are just business people and art fans, that were really smart and kind of knew how to get a business started and position. And they like giving a platform to other people. Some were artists and are, but when you're running something like a gallery, there really isn't going to be a lot of time to make your own work. So it's hanging a show, promoting it, hosting the show, and then taking it down and switching it out, finding new artists. That's all a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them. So they wouldn't have time to maintain their own art career on top of that.
I'm sure of that. And then they probably also did come up with the value of the art that they're selling. Does a gallery owner, I assume they need to, it's just like any other distributor. They're buying the art from you. Is that true? Or they don't? Okay. So they're sharing, I guess, in the price tag, I guess.
Consignment. It's on a consignment basis, sort of. So as far as setting the price, it's the artist that sets the price. And then the gallery will take anywhere between 30, 40, 50% of the sale. I've heard of some others taking more, but I try to stick with people that are taking 40 to 50% of the sale. Sometimes with sculpture, they will take a little bit less, especially if you're working with something like bronze, because there's a lot more to the cost of making the piece. So the artist needs a little bit more to cover the cost of the piece. But whether I sell to a customer on my own or to a customer that the gallery has brought in, I sell the same price to either or, because, you don't want to short the market. You don't want to undercut the sales at the gallery, because that's not fair to them, So I keep my prices the same. It's the same reason I don't run sales or discounts, because I've got people that have invested in me, and it's important to me to protect their investment and make sure that the value of my work is always going up. Like I tell people that when they ask me, oh, would you give me a little discount on this? I don't get very many of those, but every once in a while when people ask me that, I say, no, my prices never go down. They only go up. That's
right.
Out of a commitment to the people who've already collected from me. I want to make sure that their value is always going up in the work that they bought.
Yeah, you're right about that. So here's a silly question, though. I mean, when it comes to this stuff, like with the art and also with the with any other collectible, I would say you're in collecting baseball cards or whatever. Who determines the value then? I mean, is it just arbitrary? It's whatever the individual is willing to buy or spend?
It kind of is, but really, I mean, I just gauge, like when people are first starting out, they'll look at artists that are doing similar things and try to match those prices when they're first starting out. But a lot of the time, it kind of depends on what the demand is for your work. Like recently, my work was selling a lot and I had to slow it down because I've got some art shows coming up and I need the inventory for the art shows, so I had to slow it down a little bit and raise the prices by, changing the demand a little bit, slowing down the demand a little bit.
Okay, no, I get that. And you are right, though. I do understand and can respect what you're doing as far as looking at the price tag, because then you're looking at all of your past buyers and then also thinking that they're looking for that ROI, that return on that investment as well. I'll share this last story for you on this break, but before we go to break, but when I'm not an aficionado, like I said, on in the art world. However, I did end up purchasing a print from an artist. Her name's Liz Lind out of Annapolis, Maryland. And she had this great piece, and it was all these little paper cutouts. It was almost like three-dimensional. It was about, I don't know, a painting or some type of piece showing Spa Creek in Annapolis, Maryland, which is really the creek that separates, goes and feeds into the Chesapeake Bay, which is adjacent to the Naval Academy. Anyhow, long story short, I ended up getting this piece from her. And when I went to other galleries and they were selling reprints, they actually had reprints of that actual piece. And I saw the value of those being sold. And I was instantly thinking, wow, there must be some value of the item that I purchased. And I only purchased it because I thought it looked great on the top of a mantle and a fireplace. So it looked fantastic. But there, you can actually see that. And I can see there's so many others that are out there looking at that increased value right now. And I'm sure Liz, when she sells her other items, she is also taking that into consideration, which I think is extremely smart on your part and any other artist who's thinking that way. So that's great news. So listen, let's leave it right there, because coming up after the break, I really want to get your thoughts on what you see as far as, you talked about contemporary art before being the growth, but is this something, now that the economy is heading into a potential recession, if you really think that we might see a slowdown in the art market? But we'll get into that in a little bit right after the break. So please stay with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.
Financial News TV, just the way you like it. Fast-paced, unadulterated, in-your-face, rock and roll style. Join us next time on Buy, Hold, Sell Live.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to remember all that. I can't even remember.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, that doesn't. I want you to, oh, my God. Fast-paced, no, oh, sorry.
Take one.
Fast-paced, no holds barred, in-your-face, rock and roll style.
Woohoo!
Good sign.
Let's kick some.
Welcome back, everyone, to Buy, Hold, Sell special report on the global fine arts market. If you think this is the same episode as last week, it's not. It's actually a part 2, and I brought in the expert Amanda Robin Wood to join us with this. She not only knows the entire arts market, but she's an artist herself. And Amanda, you and I have talked about a little bit with obviously the selling part of it, how the global fine arts market or arts market is really exploding right now as far as sales revenue. I mean, you look at the big 3 auction houses right now, Christie's, Sotheby's, and Phillips, and they're selling, it looks like, close to $30 billion worth of art and collectibles. These are the raw numbers coming in for last year. Surely remarkable numbers that we continue to see, and it doesn't look like it is slowing down anytime soon. But you yourself, you have a showing that's scheduled in March. You're reaching out to your clientele. You're extremely active, not just with your website, but on the social media side. And for those listeners and viewers, please go to amandarobinwood.com for information on Amanda and her pieces. But I have to ask you, so now that we're in this 21st century world, are you seeing a lot of activity on the social media side? Do you see maybe potential clients, maybe those interested in your work? Are they going as far as not just asking questions, but are they actually making the purchase through those social media channels?
Absolutely. There are a lot of people that like to watch the process. And so that kind of attracts people when they get to see how these pieces are made. So sometimes I'll show a picture of an early stage of a piece and then take them through all the different stages that I take the piece through down to the end. And sometimes I have even sold a piece before it's even finished. I'll have someone message me and say, hey, what's that what are you doing with it? How's it going to end up, and what's the price going to be, do you think? And so then at that point, then they get to get a custom color on it or whatever. But it is surprising to me when somebody either buys a piece, unseen in person or before it's even finished. I did not expect that to happen to me, but it is. The trends that I'm seeing with it, social media is frustrating because they keep changing their algorithms, especially Instagram lately. I used to get a lot more traction on Instagram, but they're changing their Instagram algorithms so quickly and so often that it's just not predictable anymore. And you don't get the same kind of visibility that you used to get. I used to get sometimes 100 people, 150 people within the first few hours liking and commenting and things like that on Instagram. Now, you're lucky if you get 30 or 40. So that's a big shift, and it's harder to monetize and track what you're putting into it. It takes a lot of work. So Facebook's good. It's had some adjustments to the algorithms, but it's not as volatile as the changes that they made with the Instagram stuff. And YouTube right now is the thing to watch. I'm going to be shifting more attention to YouTube in the future because they're getting ready, like TikTok, they're getting ready to start monetizing short form content as well as their long-term content. But with YouTube, there's a longer life to videos. So if you made something a year ago, it's still going to pop up and people are going to see it. Where with something like YouTube or with something like TikTok, they kind of suppress things very quickly. So things have a very short life on TikTok, and you can't really monetize it as easily there. So a lot of artists are sort of starting to slow down with TikTok. In the beginning, there was a lot of growth there, but over time, we've all kind of seen, one, it's not the higher market, it's a lot of kids. There are a lot of moms, but they're just there for entertainment purposes. They're probably not your best buyers. So
yeah, good point. Because I'd imagine somebody who has the time to be middling around with TikTok probably doesn't have the discretionary income to actually go out and purchase something that's a higher end piece of art. So, but you are right though. I mean, just what you just described, that's a full-time job in itself to manage the marketing and the distribution and to attract new clients out there. And then you also are the artist. You have to come up with the creativity in that process. I can't imagine. There's so many moving parts for you. It's quite a bit.
A lot. It's a lot. And it takes a lot of discipline, because it's easy to lose track of time and get caught in the weeds with, producing content. And then, I forgot to make work, or finish a project. So it takes a lot of discipline to sort of budget your time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And for all the listeners and viewers, you have to go check out Amanda's Instagram page. The handle's at Amanda Robin Wood. And I gotta say, I'm looking at some of these pictures of your pieces right here. They're fantastic. I can see why somebody would actually make that purchase just off of the site itself, off of looking at that image, because they're fabulous. I mean, you could be, if this doesn't work, this artist side, you could definitely be a professional photographer because these items are really, they're fantastically displayed. So you should take I know you have a lot of pride in your work, and it really shows in these images. So that's really good.
It's a lot of trial and error. You find out what and you soon figure out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we go through that with CrossCheck Media. So I definitely know what you mean.
Right. I don't usually just have like a sales page that people can buy directly from, because my prices are sort of out of that immediate buy price range. And I like to connect with people more. So I tell people to message me if you're interested in a piece. And I like the contact and the connection, and talk to them a little bit about where the piece came from, where they are, why they want to buy it, that kind of thing. And then I get more of a relationship with them. I don't know. The idea of just selling something cold off the internet scares me a little bit, because what if you miss something? What if you don't see it? You don't ship the piece out in time. I like the connection more with messaging people and getting to know them.
Yeah, and I can respect that because, plus, let's be honest though. I mean, you have your pieces are on the higher end. you're talking to higher end investors that are clearly seasoned. They understand what they're doing. So it would kind of, if you just had a menu of prices, it might really devalue, and just the optics alone probably wouldn't look. I know personally, if I was dealing with something like that, I would just simply want to call you and find out what the price is and go from there. If I'm looking and seeing, oh, this is what I'm spending here, I'm probably going to be turning away anyhow. So I really want to know, what that value is. I think that it adds an element of gravitas, I would think, with that velvet rope approach, where there is an exclusive component to it. So I like your way of doing it. Your line of business is fantastic, and it's fabulous. I want to talk just on one other item here, because we touched on it a little bit in the last block, but the fact that you have so many people that are leaving the auction houses, and they seem to be moving forward, looking at the business side of art right now. Have you personally dealt with anybody who has said, look, I'm not going to deal with the galleries anymore. I want to get into the investment side of this. I want to help people actually invest in these pieces. Do you see that migration a little bit, where people are shifting away from the creativity or the creative aspect and more on the business side?
Are you talking about artists themselves, or
artists, or anybody in the industry? Because what I saw yesterday was a number of high-profile executives leaving Sotheby's that just focus entirely on the investment side, where they're really trying to direct client money, private client money, into finding collectibles and trying to then see the value of that, and then pulling a fee off of what they're advising on. And almost like Masterworks, where you have people that are actually investing in it only for the return on the investment, not so much for the creative process of it. Do you see any artists? Have you talked to anybody where people said, you know what, I just don't want anything to do with the creative side because the business is just so big? It's the gold rush right now of the arts market. Are people more moving into that business side? Or, I mean, you tell me. What do you say?
That so much, but I do see a lot of art dealers around now. Like the numbers of art dealers are increasing, and art reps. So
interesting. Now, how do you become an art dealer? I mean, you got to have a Rolodex of people, right? I mean, that's a very finesse type of position.
Yeah. And see, that's one of the reasons we love art galleries so much, because they have access to that special Rolodex too, that would take an artist years and years to build on their own. So, but we talked about this earlier. I have a multi-pronged approach, and I recommend this to other artists too. Don't depend on just social media. Don't depend just on your website. Art fairs. I do art fairs. I do galleries. I have the social media, and I have my website, and I have lots of different ways of contacting people, so that if my Facebook account gets hacked and they shut it down, or I don't think Facebook's going to go away anytime soon, but TikTok might, so, you have to be in several different places in case one of those goes away. So it's important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure from the publicity side, doing any type of media interviews can only help. And I'm sure that you're probably open to doing other media interviews with other outlets right now. And I'm sure after they hear the interviews from last week and then this week, I'm sure they'll be giving you a call, I'm sure, because you have so much to offer and so much insight, not just on the creative side, but also on the business side. I think that's something that's very special at what you have. So Amanda, any final words on, maybe you have some great advice for someone who is just starting out, who really wants to get involved in the global fine arts market? Maybe they want to not just maybe look for the return on investment, but they're just a collector. They're very passionate about this. Any final thoughts, any words of wisdom for them?
Yeah. The important thing is to try to find somebody that's up and coming, what we call an emerging artist. You can talk to galleries, you can search your local newspapers and see who's making the news lately. Sometimes you can really sneak up on a great sale for, a great piece for a small amount of money, and then slowly it will increase over time, but it will increase faster than if you spend a lot on a famous artist's work and it goes up a little bit. Like if an emerging artist has the most potential for growth.
Emerging artists, that's right. And that would be, I would imagine, someone who's probably been a sculptor like yourself, but only maybe has a year or two, I would guess, or they're almost an amateur and they're just going into that professional stage, that might be an opportunity. Whereas the investors also starting out might be good to work in tandem with someone. That I think that's what you're saying.
Been doing it a little bit longer because the recommendations are from the experts is you want to make sure you're not investing in just a flash in the pan, somebody that does it for a little while and then goes, ooh, this is really hard. I'm just going to go do something else now. So if you find someone that's been doing it for 5 to 10 years and hasn't really made it big, but they're consistently working, consistently producing for those years, that's really the sweet spot of what you want to look for. And even looking at universities, sometimes they have exhibitions from the graduating students. That's a great place to find new talent.
That's a brilliant idea. I didn't even think of that, because you could get somebody who is really, you want to find that new, that it's not just lightning in a bottle. I mean, there's going to be some longevity to that individual's career as an artist. So that's fascinating. That's great. Yeah, I would think that would be the right idea. I know me personally, I am definitely going to go and really investigate this further, because I like to go and visit these galleries and just see what's happening. I mean, normally I would just go just for the wine and cheese, but this might be an opportunity to actually see what's really happening. So, and plus you'll meet some fascinating people like yourself.
And there are some great business people there. Like usually, the city's fashionable and successful business people are hanging out at the galleries. So it's kind of one of those places to be seen. So you could meet some very interesting connections there.
I love that. That's wonderful. That's great news. Well, that's fantastic advice for everyone out there. And I know a lot of our listeners and viewers will get a lot out of that knowledge. So that's super. So, all right. So that's super. We'll leave it there then. And until next time. So on behalf of Amanda Robin Wood, I am Todd Schoenberger. We'd like to thank everyone for listening and watching us now on Buy, Hold, Sell, special report about the Global Fine Arts Market. Take care.
Buy, Hold, Sell, brought to you by CrossCheck Management. Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello,
Financial News TV, just the way you like it. Fast-paced, unadulterated, in-your-face, rock and roll style. Join us next time on Buy, Hold, Sell Live.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to remember all that. I can't even remember.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, that does. I want you to, oh, my God. Fast-paced, no, oh, sorry.
Take one.
Fast-paced, no holds barred, in-your-face rock and roll style.
Woohoo! Let's kick some ass.
I want you to smash that like button.
Track, cue, dissolve.
Good morning and welcome
from Bigwig Studios. From the Bigwig Media Studio.
Bigwig Media's broadcast center at the Willard is the ideal headquarters to host your virtual meetings and video conferences.
Kudos to our team who's running around behind the cameras.
What I liked about working with Bigwig Media was you guys are the experts.
Our industry pros have you covered. Let's get started.